This year, the Nature Conservation Council celebrates its 60th anniversary. It's one of the largest volunteer networks in Australia, credited with helping protect some of New South Wales' most significant natural habitats. We take a look back at its sometimes controversial history of environmental achievements.
It's a classic umbrella group. It represents small groups who could never have a voice by themselves. But when they join together, they have a strong voice.
Tonight is a tribute to the hard work, the vision, the tenacity of the people that make up the conservation movement over the past 60 years in New South Wales.
When NCC started, there was no National Parks and Wildlife Service. There was no Environmental Protection Authority. You know, these are things that NCC has been around to bring about, and to now be reflecting on that is pretty special, really.
Miles Dunphy was the father of conservation in Australia, really. He developed bushwalking gear suitable for Australia, and that was a tent and a backpack carrying arrangement, so you could go for multiple weeks into the bush, and that's what he did. And within 10 years there were about a dozen bushwalking clubs in Sydney, and bushwalking just took off. They all had a conservation ethic because that's the ethic that Miles Dunphy had. The people that come from overseas, they get to that point and they just cannot believe it. They cannot believe that right next to Sydney there's 1 million hectares of wilderness.
I love the story of Kelly's Bush from the early 70s, and it really does show how I am standing on the shoulders of giants in the conservation movement here in New South Wales. And so the idea that they were going to bulldoze a really important area of local urban bushland, and about 13 women from the community, many of them had children, came together and said, we're not going to let this stand.
Are you optimistic that you can reverse the procedure now?
We don't know, we just have to hope and take whatever steps seem possible to us.
I'm staying here. I say this is illegal. You have charged me with arrest. Who am I obstructing?
Oh, it was a complete mobilisation of Nimbin, I think. The area around Lismore was just a network of alternative lifestyle people, and the word would go out that the bulldozers are in Mount Nardi, come to Tunnable Falls, and everybody would go there, and for a period of weeks they would blockade and stop the bulldozers while you know, people are being arrested and dragged out.
Jesus, mate! What are you? What sort of an animal are you?
And it was a long campaign with many groups involved, and NCC was always at the heart of it. And it was essential. 3/4 of the rainforest of Australia had gone.
This heap of chips represents $1 million. Their plan is to fill the quarry up with wood chips. And they've built a model to show how their shipping point will look, to sell the idea to the people of Coffs Harbour. But there's a problem. The people are not publicly relating to the idea at all well. In fact, a lot of them are saying, stop wood chip.
We can't afford to do without our trees. We must have all we've got now. And all this lovely country we've got, let's not take it out and make a concrete jungle out of it.
It began early morning with a new sign hanging from the Commission's headquarters. Before most staff had arrived for work, the environmentalists entered the building.
Well, particularly as Environment Liaison Officer at the NCC, I was dealing with the minority government of the Fay government, and there are key issues there with Threatened Species Act, with Local Government Act, and some major planning issues at the time. Now, we had action on the ground. We had forest activists up in Chalundi in northeast of New South Wales, but also taking over and storming the Forestry Commission and setting up a People's Commission for the forests.
The leader of the group took over the Commissioner's office and phoned the media.
The Commission has been wildly out of line. It has continued to break laws, and yesterday we discovered that the Heritage Act has been and is still being breached.
And when the Forest Campaigners actually abseiled down and took over the Forestry Commission and installed John Corkle as the People's Commissioner for the Forest. Now that caused an absolute uproar in Parliament, but was part of a pressure point which had to get negotiated out and dealt with in terms of, and we got outcomes in terms of threatened species legislation, which was groundbreaking for Australia at the time.
And I still believe if it wasn't for people that have dedicated a lot of voluntary time over a lot of years and felt really passionate about our native wildlife and our beautiful bushland and our river systems, our wetlands, that we really would be a lot worse off as a society in New South Wales.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear NCC. Happy birthday to us. Hey!
That report by Greg Miskelly.